James, and it was what visualizations might survey, but we changed that to geospatial, might embrace into the future. We had a wide-ranging conversation actually, and a lot of different opinions, but I think we gravitated towards certain kind of key issues. One was around the importance of understanding locational privacy and how the general public now deals and thinks about this, particularly since COVID. You know, I think before that wasn't really very much in the public consciousness, but now it absolutely is. And personal location is, you know, is a pretty serious part of what your personal privacy is all about, really. And that's quite a cultural issue around the world. You know, people will look at that differently depending on where you are geographically and what different countries that you're in. So that's something that geospatial has a serious role to play in, particularly as AI advances and predictive geospatial applications start to become the norm, where decisions are being made based on data to kind of predict what's going to happen potentially into the future about that. So that locational information. Also, we had quite a good conversation about has geospatial tech developed faster than human behavior? You know, I know many of you probably have kids of a certain age. I know that mine in their 20s are moving away in many ways from a fully digital kind of existence more towards something a bit more physical. So the use of vinyl records, use of DVDs, the use of physical information and technology seems to be becoming the norm. So it was actually suggested that maybe we're being on a bit of a learning curve for our cohort of humanity around dealing with social media, and actually the other end, the younger grouping, are adopting things in a very different kind of way around that, particularly around behaviours. I think the use of Google Glass is always a classic, isn't it? About, you know, how we can bring these things out, but whether people will actually want to interact with that is a completely different situation. I don't really want to have things pop up in my eyeballs all the time, you know, unless they're quite nice. And visualization issues, again, there was talk about the importance of dashboard information and how we integrate that within the common traditional way of geographical representation through maps. Is that going to go away? That's what people are used to seeing. I find that, you know, working in RICS, when we interact with different professions, our friends and colleagues in civil engineering, structural, architecture, etc., still deal with physical representation, still understand scale, even though we're moving away from that in many ways in geospatial. AI and buried services and planning information and the interaction of different kinds of softer human data sets, so around value and perception, societal information, cultural value, and now, of course, carbon and all the environmental information being overlaid on geospatial is a big aspect of visualization into the future. And also what we were promised in the past. I think we need to look back on that. We all thought, being educated in geo in the 80s, 90s and noughties, we'd all have AI, AR, you know, glasses. Things would be a lot more advanced than they are. So we had a conversation about why potentially that hasn't happened. And I think once again it comes back to that messy interaction that we have with humans, and how we're going to deal with it into the future. And also, I think it's been really great and refreshing to hear several people mention geodesy, which is one of my core skill backgrounds as well. I think understanding how GNSS works and that underlying framework within geospatial itself is really important. The Gulf area is a particular worry at the moment, but, you know, we brought out a practice alert there to advise professionals, surveyors in hydrographic, land and engineering about those issues of GNSS spoofing and jamming. It happens all the time, and I think people are becoming, again, aware, like you said, our colleague, about the limitations of many of these technologies that we take on and how we need to build in mitigating kind of strategies into the future of how we're going to deal with that. Like you said, you can put a bullet through a map, but you can still use it. Oh, there, colleague there. And that's something I think to take into the future.